Hello, everyone. We are live on the pre-show. If you're watching this on the replay, we'll get started in about 10 minutes. Otherwise, you can hang out here. Let's put into the chat room, Security Plus Study Group live stream is at professormesser.com/live. Okay, and that goes there. And what else we got going on? We got questions going. Oh, I need a presentation. I need Keynote. Keynote needs to play. Excellent. That's working. Let's do a camera check, shall we? We're program 1. Camera 1. How's our height? It's all right. It's okay. I should probably belly up a little bit. Camera 2, camera 3 in front of me, and camera 4, the presentation. I need to update all these graphics too. The boxes have changed. The boxes. That'll have to be something for next time. No vocal zone today, so let's do a singer's soothing throat spray of honey lemon, shall we? I need new headphone cabling. You can kind of see it in these cables in the back of my head, which are poking out. I need to bring up the thing here. There. Now they wrap around. You can't see them anymore. See how that works? Now, but they're changing color. Are they supposed to be green? They're supposed to be clear. I've just had them a number of years, and I think they're changing colors. That's really right up on my head. That's really bothering me. It's going to come down a little bit. That's what I get for not, you're supposed to lock them down under your shirt, but I don't do that. We're just doing it like this. Welcome, everybody. Let's see if everybody's here. I already did the intro for the podcast, so that's done. I've got, what was I going to look at to see if anybody's here? There you are. You're on the stream already. Fantastic. Fantastic. Let's go through Keynote. That's ready to go. This is ready to go. Bunt. It's a bunt. Bunt. Yes, getting that from the first question, which is not an advertisement. There's always a reason for me doing this. Not sticking around for the study group. Come on, Tony. Well, congratulations on passing the exam. I can understand why you wouldn't want to hang out for the study group since you passed the exam. But thanks for watching the videos. Thanks for watching the other study groups. And congratulations on passing your Security Plus. That's got to feel good. What are you doing next? Because I'm asking people now, you've done the Security Plus. What are you doing next? Which is really a question I'm asking to say, what should I be doing next? I'm thinking about 2018. And all of the things I have planned. I usually have a list of 20 things. Literally, there's probably more than 20 on the list. And I have to pick 2 of those. Because do something, a project takes months. You can't turn around a project that I'm doing in a day. CCNA and then CCNA security, that's good. That's a good direction. And I've started down that road. I've got the ICND 1 CCENT course notes, but I don't have ICND 2. It's on my list. So that's one of those things. It's on the list. Also, don't have videos made for those yet. I've got the videos set. I could record them. I just don't have them done. Those would be much more involved than the existing video series that I've done because there's a lot of demo in those, a lot of demonstration, a lot of typing. But I have all the labs ready to go. I don't know what I'm waiting for. I do know what I'm waiting for. I'm working on Security Plus. That's what I'm waiting for. That's what we're doing. We got 5.5 minutes, everybody. Thanks for joining. Welcome to the pre-show. Welcome to the studio. Trying to get our act together here. It's a little cold out. Let's see how things are going outside at birdfeeder.live, which is the bird feeder in the backyard. Let's see how it looks today. I've got the audio turned way down. Let's see if the stream is even up. Looks like it is. No birds. Where's all the birds? Hey, bird. What's going on? There's no birds in there. No, I got it. Thanks, Google. I got it. No, really, I got it. Google is incessant that I back up all of my SSDs that record this video stuff. How is it able to see those? It should be recording them. It is. Should not even see that right now. Well, what's going on? Is it windy? It is 58 degrees Fahrenheit here in North Florida. So I've got to wonder about that. I need to clean this thing. It's a mess. Yet another thing I need to wash on the outside. I've got a mixture of, need to put some other types of seeds in here for the winter. Most of this is sunflower seeds and a few dried up worms. I've got these those dry worms, not a big hit with the birds right now. So need some millet. Need some millet for the winter. What are we doing on time? How are we doing here? Oh, we're doing great on time. I've already updated the website. The tweets should have already gone out. Let's see if they did. Yes, they did. Thanks, tweet. Thanks, Twitter. And Rick in Colorado passed the 401 this last month. Yay. Yay. That's always nice to have that done. And you got it done. You didn't have to switch over to the 501, which is nice. There's no birds. Do we even have sound? Is there? I'm not getting any audio from that. That concerns me. Am I getting any audio from my computer whatsoever, which is more important for what we're doing? Let's pick let's watch my study group. If I watched my study group here, I should be able to hear my study group on my computer. I have a feeling that it's Microsoft causing the problem there. So if I'm listening here, there. So if I'm listening here, see that works. My computer's fine. It's YouTube. Actually, it's not YouTube. It's Microsoft that has messed up the audio on the live stream, which means I'm going to have to go. They probably updated the video card, and there's a whole thing. I'm not happy with Microsoft and the way they update things. You can't stop them from doing an update. They are incessant. They will just reboot your machine. But no, it's a server. Well, the audio, me talking, you can hear. Normally, though, in this picture, there is running water and background noises. You can hear the birds. Yeah, there's a bird. What's up, brother? Normally, you can hear them. You can't hear them on the live stream. Is the live stream turned down? Did I turn it down for some reason? No, it's turned all the way up. So, another thing for me to troubleshoot later on. That's okay. 2 minutes. 1 minute and 40 seconds. Let's get some more of this. Ugh. Honey lemon. Very nice. Well, at least somebody's enjoying the food. I feel like it's not a waste. When I have to go back to my computer. I have a separate streaming device. There is literally a security cam that's out here in it's actually in a birdhouse. Here's a picture of it here. So this one here, it's a Hikvision camera that is looking down upon this bird feeder. So if you looked out in the yard, it just looks like a birdhouse. And that is being powered through the single Ethernet cable, power over Ethernet, back all the way underground, back to the studio. So it's a direct line. And that configuration works really well. But it's coming back to a central switch, power over Ethernet switch that's powering it. And then I've got a direct, I'm talking to it using, I forget which streaming software am I using. It's that gaming software. What's the gaming streaming software that I can now not remember? But it's the gaming software is accessing that camera through RTMP or something like that. No, not Twitch. It's the software that people on Twitch will use to do their streaming because you can do overlays. In fact, this thing that's up here that shows the time and the temperature and the location and all that. It's actually the software is grabbing an XML from the National Weather Center and then formatting it and pasting it up on the screen. It's not Fraps, it's the other one. So there you go. It's not OBS, it's the other one. It's time to start this thing. What am I talking about? Let's close this up. Let's get this going. We can always come back to that and figure out all those pieces. Get the Socrative going. Play this on the screen. Okay, we're doing a study group, everybody. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the November 2017 Professor Messer's Security Plus study group from our world headquarters in Tallahassee, Florida. My name is James Messer. I will be your host for this 1 hour of interactive Q&A. I'll tell you all about how that works in just a moment. And then we'll have an after show, we like to call it, which is really just an extension of the show itself, where I'll open up phone lines. We can also talk about any topics that might be top of mind. And we'll go through all of these things. You'll learn all about craziness that may have nothing to do with Security Plus, but here we are with our Security Plus pieces and trying to make all of that happen. I have quite a bit to go through today. I would not be able to do these study groups, by the way, but except for your help. Thank you so much for supporting what we do here at Messer Studios. For many of you will watch all of my Security Plus videos, all of my training courses. Every minute of every video is available online. And one of the things that I like whenever I'm working through trying to figure out what I should do next is I go to those videos, and that's where I go, is YouTube. And so it's all out there on YouTube to watch. Some people like to have videos available to watch offline, and I can understand. So there's offline versions for sale as well. You can find those at professormesser.com/getsecplus. For those of you wanting to know what's going on around here these days, it's all about Security Plus right now. So you've really come to the right place. There is Security Plus everywhere with what we're doing. I've got Security Plus that we're putting out new videos all the time. Every week is a new set of videos. Follow what we're doing on professormesser.com/Twitter. You can see everything going on at professormesser.com/YouTube. And as a reminder, don't forget about the vouchers. There are vouchers that you can get at professormesser.com/vouchers, a voucher discount. I don't sell the vouchers, but I can give you a discount that you can use towards getting some vouchers. Not a bad idea to have that there. This is one where it's nice to have that capability to be able to get a little discount. So don't pay full price. It's kind of nice to have there with all of those pieces. I've got some questions for Security Plus that I've archived from these study groups. So if you want these 20 question sectioned Q&A, they're all out there. ProfessorMesser.com/Pop Quiz. There's I have A+ out there, Network Plus, and Security Plus questions. There's at least 100 or so of them out there. So it may be a good place to test your knowledge of Security Plus. And it's questions that I've written that come directly from the archive of these study groups. Some of you like to watch the video replay of this study group. Others have said, no, I want something podcasty. I want something that could just automatically get downloaded to my podcast listener, and I can listen to the audio when I'm traveling. And here it is. You can go to professormesser.com/podcasts, and you can, of course, listen in. You can subscribe right there. You can listen on the page with the interactive player. It's all there for you to connect to and be able to work through. I mentioned earlier we are going to do Q&A today, interactive Q&A today. The way we do that is through a third-party service called Socrative. There it is. Socrative is pretty nice because I can ask a question on the screen, and you're effectively voting on the answer on your screen. If you'd like to follow along with us, you can pop open a new browser screen and go to professormesser.com/QA. There's a question right there waiting for you if you go to that. The question that's there is, well, I've got the question that I have on all of these. Let's see if I can get the right thing going. By the way, you can also download a student app for Socrative if you have on your mobile device. Just remember, if you're doing that, you have to put in a room name, and the room name is Professor Messer, ProfessorMesser. And if you do all of those things, or one of those things, you will see a question on the screen that says, since 1950, how many bunt pans has Nordic Ware sold across North America? This is not a Nordic Ware advertisement, by the way. As some of you have watched these study groups before, there is a method to my madness. But I've given you a multiple choice. here. So you don't have to guess a number. It's not a closest to the pin today. Instead, the options are 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, 50 million, or 60 million. How many bunt pans has Nordic Ware sold across North America? Bunt. Then you should be able to answer that. In fact, let's see how you're doing with that. I can see interactively on my side as you are voting how you've done. You can see 30%, the winner, kind of a tie for first, really, is this number, letter D. 50 million and 60 million and 40 million are kind of tied for first. So we've got a little bit of everything there. Here's a little tip for you that are wondering how you do this. You go to professormesser.com/QA. Please don't answer in the chat room when we get back to the network, to the Security Plus questions. And don't no hints in the chat room. We're going to pretend that we're taking this exam and we're getting no help at all from anybody. So we're going to take a guess at it. The real answer on this one is you may not realize more than 60 million bunt pans have been sold in North America, I think since the 1950s when they created them, these bunt pans. And the reason I mention it, I told you there's a method to the madness. First, it's food. And you know I like to ask food questions first thing. And secondly, today, November 15th, National Bunt Day. Who knew? National Bunt Day. 60 million pans. That's a hit. Nice job, Nordic Ware. Should have gotten that Nordic Ware stock when I had a chance. I really never had a chance. We're going to talk about Security Plus today. Enough of Nordic Ware. We now know that we have a couple of options for Security Plus. The one that has been around for the last 3 years or so is the current version of the exam called SY0401. The SY0401 released April 2014, and it is retiring in July. So you've got until July of next year. If you're studying right now for the 401, keep studying for the 401. You have plenty of time to study for the 401. What is it, 6-7 months worth of study available? Even if you skip December, you still got 6 months worth. So plenty of time, really 7 months, end of July, to have that there. Now, there is a newer version of the exam that has been released. It got released in October. It is the SY0501. The SY0501 is a new version of questions. It's a new exam objectives. It's a new exam. Objectives, new questions. It's all new. If you're studying for the 401, keep studying for the 401. You do have a choice right now. Here we are in November of 2017 as to which version of the exam you get to take. So you can make that decision. Since the 501 was just released, there are relatively fewer study materials for the 501 than there are for the 401 that has been out for 3 years. So keep that in mind. I would think after the beginning of the year, people will probably you'll start seeing more books and more study materials. My training course will probably be close to being done at that point. And so you'll have an option. You can decide, maybe I should just go ahead and start the 501. But if you're already working on the 401, take the 401. Do not use 401 materials and walk in and go take the 501 exam. 501 exam is a very different exam than the 401. Don't get 501 materials and expect that you can walk into the 401 exam. These are not interchangeable. So think about that. That's pretty important to consider. So this is when you have to decide which exam you're going to take and then get all of your study materials that match that version and work towards getting that version done. If you pick the 401, as long as you can get it done by the end of July. Now, if you're someone like me, it takes a year for you to study and do everything. Okay, I get it. Take the 501. Grab 501 materials. You're going to be fine. Right now, you're good. But if you're watching this video in May, you may think, well, I'll take the 401. You better get it done by the end of July because it just goes away. And then you have to start over. So don't do that. Whether you're taking the 401 or 501, it's a single exam. So don't worry about the differences and is the exam going to be very different? It's not. It's 90 minutes long. You get a maximum of 90 questions. You may not even get 90 questions. The passing score is a 750 between a range of 100 to 900. So that's the options there for taking this exam. It's a multiple choice exam, and there are these special questions they have called performance-based questions. talk about that in just a moment. In the chat room, folks, Jerry's asking, if you have a 401 voucher and you've yet to take the exam, what will do? What will do, Jerry? I would study for the 401. I've got a 401 voucher. I would take the 401 exam. In fact, right now, there's so much study material out there for the 401 that's been out there for years and years. Why not take the one that is easiest to study for? You get exactly the same certification, by the way, whether you take the 401 or 501. It doesn't matter. You get the same piece of paper. It doesn't say, here's your 401 Security Plus or here's your 501 Security Plus. It just says, here's your Security Plus. So there you go. For this study group, thank you, Rick in Colorado, the questions that we do today will apply to both the 401 and the 501. So during this transition period, at least for the next few months, I will have questions that will apply to both exams. So don't worry that you're watching this and you're like not going to get anything out of it. What good is that? That's okay. That's all right for that. You'll be in great shape. Now, I mentioned the exam. Oh, by the way, some people saying, yeah, but the employers, they might be looking for the 501. You know, I sometimes think that. I haven't found an employer yet. Maybe there's been one through the years that people have told me, no, they really wanted to see that I'd taken the newest exam. But the CompTIA exams they don't work that way. Once you're certified, you can maintain that certification by simply renewing it every 3 years. You never take the exam again. So it's unusual for an employer to even worry about that. They just want to see that you are certified and that the certification is up to date, that it is available, something you can take on those. So that's the idea, is don't worry about employers asking you, hey, did you take the latest version? They don't care. They just want to see a Security Plus. And the federal government, by the way, they don't take 501 or 401. They take Security Plus. Whether you if you take the 401 and pass it, you earn your Security Plus. If you take the 501 and pass it, you earn your Security Plus. It's the same thing. There's no difference whatsoever in the certification. It's not marked 401 or 501. It's a certification. So that's what you think about. Let's do some questions, shall we? I mentioned earlier that whenever you take the exam, a lot of the questions are multiple choice, but the first questions you get on the exam are different than a multiple choice. They're anything but a multiple choice. So it will be fill in the blank. It'll be a matching question. It'll be putting things in a particular order. For the 501, it might pop you into a command prompt, and you have to perform a function because there's command line options on the 501 exam. So that's one of those things that will be very different when you start the exam. So what I like to do on these study groups is start you off with a performance-based question. This is not a multiple choice. This is one, and folks asking if Socrative is down. It's not. Socrative's up. It's working great. It's all working there. So here's our performance-based question of the day. I have 6 things on the screen, and I want to know for each one of these, is it a hash algorithm, an encryption cipher, or a key stretching library? You got a choice of 3 things to apply to each one of these. Obviously, it's only one matching thing for each one of these, but I want to know for all of these. So for those of you listening on the podcast, your options are, number 1 is bcrypt, number 2 is HMAC, number 4. Why is 4 before number 3? Number 4 is RC4. Number 3 is SHA-1. You could see where my head was when I was making this question. Number 5 is DSA, and number 6 is 3DES. We know that's something else, isn't it? bcrypt, HMAC, RC4, SHA-1, DSA, 3DES. So there you go. Those are the 6 things. Now, for each one of these, you have to make a decision. Is that, like the first one, bcrypt? Is bcrypt a hash algorithm, an encryption cipher, or key stretching? And we're already getting some answers. Those of you who are with me have answered, I have no idea. We're skipping this one. So what you want to do is, for each one of those, associate one of those options to it. So bcrypt will be hash algorithm, encryption cipher, key stretching. Which is it? Number 2, HMAC. Is that a hash algorithm, an encryption cipher, or a key stretching library? Which one is it? So go through that list. Remember, no answering in the chat room. No hints in the chat room. We want to know which one those are. Some of you are already putting down. Some of you did really well on this one. So yeah, you can put abbreviations. I can follow it. We're not going to go look at the exact answers you're sending in on these. It's really for your own monitoring of what you think it is for those. So we're getting a number of answers in. People are putting them in. The folks that have no idea, thank you. And if you have no idea, that's fine. You're about to know. You're about to figure it out. If you think you know the answers, there's the link at the bottom, professormesser.com/QA. If you are on my live page, professormesser.com/live, there's a link there as well to Socrative. So you can get right there. And if you're just looking for the Socrative room name, it's Professor Messer, Professormesser. Yes, I know, 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, 6. What? Is there a problem with my numbering? I don't understand. One of the things, I'm putting these Security Plus videos out right now, and occasionally in a video, I will say something wrong. I know. This is one of the problems when you're doing 20 things. You're working on videos. When I shoot the videos, I'm shooting here. There's things going on this screen. There's things going on this screen. I'm talking to the camera. It's constant motion. Sometimes I'm just saying what's on the page without thinking about what I'm saying. And it'll go into the recording. It'll get into the edit. It'll go online. You guys are really good at telling me when I do those things. So often I will go back and you'll find a video has been updated. Like suddenly it's removed. I've changed it. There's a new one there. Happens every time I do a course. So thank you very much for your editing for me, being the backup there. Let's look at the answers, though. A lot of you have given the answers here. Let's go through each one of these. So hash algorithm, encryption cipher, or key stretching library. Let's start with number 1, bcrypt. Very curious to know if I numbered these properly on the second page, which would really just mess everything up. So is bcrypt, what is bcrypt? It is a key stretching library. It is. If you're a developer, you would use bcrypt to take an existing key and stretch it. The way we stretch a key is you encrypt with the key and then you encrypt with the key again, and you encrypt with the key again. There's other methods behind that. So there's an entire library of these things. This is pretty important, by the way, because you don't want to give the developers the responsibility of creating all of the algorithmic programming required to do key stretching. They don't have to worry about that. They just want to take information, throw it into a library, and have the library spit back to them something that's very secure. And then they don't have to think about it. That's the beauty of libraries. And bcrypt is indeed a key stretching library. Number 2 is HMAC. HMAC. Anybody care to take a guess? HMAC is a hash algorithm. In fact, it's hash-based message authentication code. That's how we knew it was an H at the beginning, had that H there for HMAC. We see HMAC used in wireless communication. We see HMAC used in emails. You'll see it because it's great message hashing function. 2 for 2. Now, is that 2 for 2 right, or is that 2 for 2 wrong? Because this is not an easy one. Oh, good. I kept the numbering. Number 4 is RC4. At least we're consistent, right? RC4 is an encryption cipher. Rivest Cipher 4. Ronald Rivest created that. RC4, commonly used on wireless WPA, isn't it? WPA used RC4. So there, I think WEP used RC4 too. There is, so that's encryption. Let's do number 3, SHA-1. SHA-1, that one should be relatively familiar. The secure hash algorithm, it's in the name. It is indeed a hash algorithm. I know you can't remember what she answered when you look through all these. Number 5, DSA, is the digital signature algorithm that's used to encrypt with. So last one on our list is triple DES. That's how it's actually pronounced. Triple DES. It is DES spun up 3 times. 3 different things that we do to DES. It's almost like we're doing a key stretching to DES, but that is indeed an encryption cipher. Triple DES, to have that there. So there's our answers. bcrypt is key stretching. HMAC is a hash algorithm. RC4 is an encryption cipher. SHA-1 is hash. DSA is an encryption cipher. And triple DES is also an encryption cipher. Well done. All of these things that you see here are both in the 401 and the 501. So if any of these look like you've never seen them before, it's time to grab your exam objectives from professormesser.com/objectives. That just redirects you over to the CompTIA site. And make sure you have these objectives because they are all there, I assure you. Definitely there to have it available. Let's do some multiple choice now. So we got through the performance-based. And in you did your exam, or when you're planning to do your exam, a lot of you will skip over all the performance-based questions, do all the multiple choice first, and then circle back and do the performance-based last. That's my strategy too, because I think my mind, it gets jogged. There's things I remember by going through the multiple choice that when I come back, I can apply that towards the performance-based questions. So I flag them and skip back. And on the CompTIA exams, you can move around to any question at any time. It's not a linear exam. It's not an adaptive exam. It's one where you can jump all the way to the end. You can jump to the middle. You can jump to any question at any time. So you've got complete control over what you answer at any time. Let's do another question. Got another one for you. This one is, almost gave you an answer. That was close. You and a service provider have legally agreed to a 99.999 uptime metric. Which of the following would best describe this agreement? Would it be, multiple choice here, an MOU? Would it be an SLA? Would it be an MOA? Would it be a BPA? Would it be an SOP? One of those would be the answer. You're answering very fast on this one. Some of you must really know this one. Some of you really have a pretty good idea what this one might be. If you think you know what the answer is, go to professormesser.com/QA. Not a lot of Googling going on for this one. And one of those things that you want to remember, by the way, is not to answer in the chat room. We're going to let a number of you go through this time. But now I start muting people after this one. So think about what we're doing with these agreements and how we use them. Now, it's true. Some of you probably have worked with some of these agreements in your actual day-to-day work. These are not unusual agreements. In fact, none of these answers are really that unusual. There's some that you probably might use more than others, but you've probably run into those answers from time to time. And I did give you the abbreviations. So it's kind of a two-step process. I have to ask you the question, but then you have to figure out based on these acronyms which one of these things it is. And there's a lot of good acronyms on the Security Plus exam. So maybe you know what some of these things happen to be. And I'm really familiar with these from work, not this work. There's not a lot of me doing 99.999 uptime metrics for me, but I do run into this from time to time. Let's see how we did with this one. Well, the multiple choice questions generally have the acronym written out. The multiple choice questions don't generally do anything. They're all over the place. So don't expect anything to be a gimme on the exam. Let's see, 82% of you said SLA. And then single digits from there, only 8% said MOU, 7% said MOA. So that's a good tie for second. And then way down at the bottom, 3% said BPA and 2% said SOP. All of these, and by the way, some of you are asking, where the heck are you getting these things from? Where are these questions coming from? What the heck? I don't even know what this is associated with. So if you're ever trying to do some cross-referencing on these, whenever I show the answer slides, you will notice at the bottom of the slide is the exam version. In this case, I'm referencing the 501 exam objectives, but the same objectives apply. At least the names of them apply to the 401 as well. But section 501 of the 501 objectives is agreement types, and that's where this comes from. This, by the way, is a very common agreement, service level agreement. It's when you are contractually setting up an agreement with someone. So usually there's a legal team involved on both sides. You're writing up a contract, and it's usually with a service provider. And you're telling the service provider, I need a wide area network communication, and I want to be able to communicate back and forth, but I want this to always be available, and it needs to be available for 12 months at 99.999% uptime. And if it isn't, I want something in return. I want a discount for the next month. I want another month free. I want a hat. I want to be taken to lunch. You know, something. There's something in the contract. It's contract. You can make it anything. I want an elephant. I want you to bring me an elephant. If it's not 99.999, it's in the contract. You got to do it. So that's the beauty of a contract. You go back and forth. You decide what's appropriate. Both sides say, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. We'll sign on the dotted line. And then that's it. You're locked in like any other contract that you might have. There's also other types of agreements like a business partners agreement, a BPA. I mentioned the BPA in the questions. In fact, how many of you, 2% answered a BPA. That's when a manufacturer and a reseller will have an agreement between each other. It doesn't necessarily have to be contractual, but it's one that says you need to have a certain number of people that are certified and you agree to sell this much of the product over the year. There's also an ISA, the Interconnection Security Agreement. This is federal government in the U.S. commonly does this between all of their different organizations to make sure that the security controls are up to date and make sure everybody's using the right kind of security. There's other agreements on that slide I mentioned. One was also the MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding. Take a memorandum, please, and let's send just a non-contractual agreement. It's a handshake. It's informal. It says this was what we're going to do. And what do you think of that? I think that'd be a great idea to have that there. Whenever I start working through trying to figure out the details, that's where you'll run into that. There is a memorandum of agreement. And that's when a little more important than an MOU. That's when both sides are agreeing to the objectives. It kind of has legalese in it, but nobody's really signing it. It's not a contract, but it's a little more formal. Just so everybody really understands legally. Let's not sign on it. Let's not go to court over this. Let's both have a very, very clear understanding of what we're going to do. That is an MOA. So those are the things that we saw. And the answer right here, obviously, the 83% of you were absolutely right. It is a service level agreement. B is the correct answer to have that there. So this is one where you really have to think about all of these different kinds of agreements because you could be asked about any of these on the exam. So think about those questions as well. You need to understand what all those are. Maybe the SLA was a gimme. Well, let's see if this one's a gimme. Some of you know about encryption. A lot of you tell me encryption is really the problem for you. You say, I got to do encryption. It's cryptography. It's a challenge. So, of course, I gave you a cryptography question. Bob is sending encrypted information to Alice. What key does Alice use to decrypt the ciphertext? Alice, what are you using? Well, kiss my grits. What would be the key that Alice would? I guess Flo would be using that key to decrypt the ciphertext. I should probably change the question in Socrative. There you go. So would the possible answers, have a look at these possible answers. Would it be A, Bob's public key, B, Alice's public key, C, Bob's private key, or D, Alice's private key? That's pretty much every possibility, isn't it? So you really weren't able to narrow one down from my very comprehensive list. So maybe you do know the answer. And if you think you know the answer, go to professormesser.com/QA. Please don't answer in the chat room or give any hints. Bob is sending encrypted information to Alice. The real question is, what's Bob sending to Alice? Bob shouldn't be sending things to Alice. Bob doesn't even know Alice, does he? Well, that's a real question. We need to answer these later. What key does Alice use to decrypt the ciphertext? What key does Alice use to decrypt the ciphertext? Yeah, we got to wonder. Now the chat room's speculating. What could it possibly be? They're married. I had no idea. No one invited me to the wedding. Well, it's one less gift for Bob and Alice. So I'm going to take a sneak peek, by the way, at the answers. A lot of you answered this one very quickly, but unlike the last question, we are so torn. What is it? We are so torn. Let's go through the answers we have so far. 43%, not quite a majority, but 43% said Alice's private key. 33% said Bob's public key. 18% said Bob's private key, and then 6% said Alice's public key. Oh boy. So there's a whole backstory going on in the chat room right now about Bob and Alice. It should be Mel and Alice, but you'll find that these thank you for getting these references, by the way, K-Dubs. It's important that somebody follow along with me. Let's take this scenario, which, by the way, is asymmetric encryption, and let's look at Bob's laptop. Here's Bob. Hi, Bob. Bob is going to send some encrypted information to Alice. So it's a message he's putting together. This doesn't seem to be quite as quite the message that the chat room thought it was going to be. It's a simple message that says, "Hello, Alice." Not sure why Bob feels it necessary to encrypt this, but he does. And he encrypts it by combining it with Alice's public key. Her public key, after all, is public. Everybody has access to the key. So if anybody ever wants to send encrypted information to Alice, they would use Alice's public key. And Bob combines those two things together and creates the ciphertext. And there it is. It's just gobbledygook. We don't know what's in the ciphertext. There's no way to discern the original message from the ciphertext. You can't undo it with the public key, which is the beauty of asymmetric encryption. It's perfect. Now nobody can read that ciphertext unless the person unless there's in this case, it's Alice. But how is Alice going to decrypt this? Here's Alice's computer. She's received the ciphertext. And to be able to decrypt the ciphertext, Alice uses Alice's private key. Alice is the only one with the private key. It's a private key. Nobody else has the private key. If somebody else got Alice's private key, Alice would have to cancel that key and get another key. It's like the keys to your house. You don't want anybody else getting the keys to your house. So there's Alice's private key. She combines her private key with the ciphertext. That is the only key that would be able to decipher this and return the plain text so that she would be able to read, "Hello, Alice." And now she's wondering, "Bob, why did you encrypt such a simple message to me? What's going on?" This is one where whenever you start looking at asymmetric encryption, this is the process that happens every time for just the encryption part. There's a whole nother set of processes that happen that will completely confuse you when you get to digital signatures, I assure you. But when you think about just asymmetric encryption, this is the way you do it. So let's see our answers. It's okay. Let's have a look. Well, we know it's not Bob's public key or Bob's private key. We're sending this information to Alice. Alice would not decrypt her ciphertext with the public key because you can't. It's been encrypted with the public key. The only key is Alice's private key. That's what Alice would use to decrypt the ciphertext. So in the chat room, some people asking some very good questions. One, where did Bob get this public key? Here's the public key that Bob was using. He used this public key first thing to encrypt this. Well, Alice gave it to everybody. Alice put it on her website. She posted it on the very public key servers. There's many key servers around the world that you can put these on. And you can do a search for Alice's email address or her name, and it will pop up with her public key. So he may have downloaded the public key. It might be on Alice's website. Alice might have her public key emailed out to everyone. That's one very common thing. Bob would not use his keys to encrypt because Alice doesn't have a private key of Bob's. Also in the questions, would there be a situation where she would use Bob's public key to decrypt? No, because Bob encrypted with Alice's public key. The other side of this pair, they were both created. Alice's public key and private key were created at the same time. They are a pair. They are cousins. They're twins. Not twins exactly. They're paternal twins. Or is it maternal twins? They're twins. They're a brother from another mother. They're very close to being twins, but they're certainly connected at the hip. They're conjoined twins. That's not even close to being a good example. But those two are related to each other. They are cryptographically, numerically related to each other. If you encrypt with the public key, the only thing that will decrypt it is the other key, is the private key. We're really creating two keys. We're just telling the world, we're just naming them. Okay, we have two keys. Here's the public one. Here's the private one. We could have done it the other way, but as long as we keep them consistent from the very beginning. I did go all over the map with that one. But they are a pair. They're compared with each other and being able to do that. So that's one where we're very difficult to, it would be impossible to decrypt that with anything other than Alice's private key. It's the only place you would be able to do that. Now, when Alice wanted to send encrypted information back to Bob, she's going to need Bob's public key to encrypt the information and send it back to Bob. Bob will use his private key to be able to decrypt it on that. So that's one whenever we start looking through, trying to figure out, what do we do with that? How do we go through those pieces? How do we get that? If you think these are hip references, then you're probably as unhip as I am in having those there. So very nice to have that capability there. And one of the beauties of asymmetric encryption is that you can encrypt it with one key, and the only way you're going to decrypt it is with the other key. You can't reverse that. For instance, if Bob encrypted this plain text with the public key, and he realized later, oh, I need to get that back. You're not getting it back. Sorry. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You're not going to be able to, unless you send it to Alice and say, can you please use your private key and decrypt this and send it back to me? So very, very good. So we may talk about digital signatures later on. There's a whole bunch of things relating to digital signatures and everything else. But we got plenty more questions to go. Before we get the next question, though, I will remind you that I've taken all of the information from all of my videos, all of the images, all of the graphics, all of the text, everything that's there, and I've created a series of course notes for these. You can, of course, take your own notes, and I highly recommend that you do, but not everybody has time to go through every single video and take notes. So I just put everything in there. I used to just put the highlights, and you told me, no, we want everything. So I put everything. Everything in my 401 course is in my 401 course notes. 35 pages worth, all the cloud computing, all the encryption, all of the key information, all of the risk management details, the mobile security, the tools, they're in there in the course notes. There's also a 501 version of course notes too that you can find on the website. The new version for these. In fact, there's both the PDF version and you can get both a digital version and a physical version of the course notes. The 501 course notes, the 501 course is much bigger. It is 90 pages, 90 pages, and includes all those keys and everything else, all of the details. So all the key stuff is in there. Encryption pieces, that doesn't even help you. Why am I showing you that? It looks like this. There's the PDF version. So all of the things, I'm going to skip all the way to the back and show you all the key stuff we were just talking about, digital signatures, private keys, public keys, it's all there. So maybe something you want to consider getting. Might help you with your studies. It doesn't replace a book. It doesn't replace the videos. It doesn't replace any of those things, but it might help you through some of these processes of figuring out, what do I do next? Where do I go? I'm ready to hop in there. The 401 is 35 pages of content. The 501 is 94 pages for the 501. And it's just happened to be the exam was just bigger. 501 exam's a lot bigger. The PDF format's one you can print. It's a non-protected PDF. I hate those. You can print it, put it on all your mobile devices. Wherever you go, you will be able to look at these course notes. They're just a PDF that you can read with any PDF reader. So pretty useful to have that there. So have a look at those. Maybe it's something that you can do and have a look through all of those pieces. So very nice to have that there. And all of those different answers. Find out more about that at professormesser.com/securitycn for the 401. And you can go to the website. Just go to professormesser.com. You'll find links right there on the main page for the Security Plus 501 course notes. And I'll just print it up. I print them on demand. You want it? It's fresh. It's made just for you. And I just ship it right out to you. And when you get the printed version, by the way, you also get the digital version. So you get both of these that you see on the screen right now when you get the printed version, which is kind of nice. Let's do another question. This is a good one. This is one from both the 401 and the 501. Let's see if anybody gets this one. It's about birthdays. What? It is. In a classroom of 23 students, and by the way, this is a fill in the blank. So this is the closest to the pin that we're going to do. Classroom of 23 students. What is the percentage chance of 2 students sharing a birthday? Classroom, we got more than 23 students here. So what is the percentage chance of 2 of those students sharing a birthday? What do you think it is? Put your percentage in there. I mean, you got to figure it out. Okay, 23, how many days in a year? You got to. Some of you are doing math at this point, and you may be overthinking this one. Not sure is a good answer, by the way. For those. If you are watching the live stream, you're seeing delays on the live stream. I send a single stream off to YouTube. So they get one thing, they get one stream. And then if you're seeing, they re-encrypt it, by the way, or not re-encrypt it, they render it. And so you're seeing a separate stream coming directly from YouTube. So if you're having problems with the stream, it's something between you and YouTube doing those pieces of it for all of those. You can do anything for the course notes. For those of you asking about the book form, you print out and do whatever you like with it. If you want to bind it in a book, do a 3. It is formatted for printing like this. So there's actually a gap for a margin, an inside margin. So yeah, you could do it any way you'd like, and have those there. If you're watching it through my site, you're really seeing it come from YouTube. I don't send it to you directly. Sorry, it's not me. It's YouTube. I don't have the bandwidth for the hundreds of people watching this right now to be able to send out hundreds of streams from my poor little studio. So you're watching it on YouTube. So it just happens. If your link between you and YouTube's a little bit iffy. So that's how it goes. Have those pieces. Do I have the 501 USB key with all the videos on it? Not yet, because I haven't finished the 501 videos yet. I'm still working on those. It's all happening in real time. Literally updating these videos as we go. I have about probably 15 to be edited right now in the can. I'm through all of section 1. We're working on section 2. Section 2 is almost done recording. So by the beginning of the year, you'll see the 501 USB key available. A little something available to have those there. It'll be it's fun to be able to work on these. So let's see how you answer on this one. I'm not going to show you the screen on these, but some have said 11%, 50%, 6.301%. Someone went to some work on there. Oh, good answer. If they're twins, 100%. Nice job. Went back to the twins. Nice callback. 73%, 1 out of 23. That was an easy one to figure that out. All of these, you're saying it's not math class. If you're doing security, there's some math involved. I'm going to have to tell you right now. This is really called the birthday attack. That's what this is referring to. And it's important to think about the concept of this. So this is the question. 23 students in a classroom. What is the chance of 2 students sharing a birthday? The chance, and I think a number of you did answer this in the answers, it's actually about 50%. Because we're not trying to figure out everybody's particular chance of having a birthday on a particular day of the year. We're just trying to find 2 people that share a birthday. That's it. And when you think about it in those terms, there's actually a nice little algorithm you could run to figure out the percentage chance of these. It's about 50%. It's pretty close to 50. So it's pretty nice to be able to have that there, 50%. In fact, I think I wrote down for a class of 30, chance is 70% to have this here. Now, why are these numbers useful? Why is it important to know that there is a way that it really didn't think it would be 50% for 23 students? It took me a long time to put this here. Yes, this is an actual test question. The birthday attack is an actual thing you need to know. This is, in fact, you can see at the bottom, the SY0 501 1.2 cryptographic attacks is also in the 401 as well. If you do a birthday attack, you Wikipedia that, they put the entire algorithm out there for you to have a look at and deal with those. So a lot of you are saying, no, that can't be right. You're making this up. I'm not. This is legitimate. In the digital world, especially with cryptography, we use the same concept of potentially having 2 students or 2 plain texts share the same hash. And when that happens, it's a hash collision. So there are algorithms that you can do to help figure out if there is a hash collision, because you don't want a hash collision. That's a bad name. So people will try all kinds of different materials, try different plain texts, try to get 2 plain texts that are very different that end up having the same hash, which should not happen. So that's one of those. If they're twins, you've now broken the hash. So your algorithm has to make sure that there are no twins in your classroom. So that's one of those you have to worry. In fact, if it's twins, the algorithm's working, isn't it? Because if you got one plain text, another plain text, they're exactly the same, the hash should match. That's not a hash collision, is it? This is one of the things that they will try to do, because if you can create a certificate for a web server that is trusted, and somebody's able to craft their own certificate that was never signed by a trusted certificate authority, but the hash matches, that's how we know the certificate is valid, because we got a valid hash, and the hash matched that. Well, now we've got something. And that's why this is such a bad thing. Someone could present to you some information that appears to be legitimate when, in fact, it was not legitimate at all. An MD5, for example, was broken. Is it bad? Not necessarily bad. The chances of a collision with MD5 are very unusual. So you will see MD5 being used all the time on the internet, for example, as a file hash, so that they'll put it on the website. Here's your download. Here's the hash of this file. You download the file, and then you compare the hash. And you can see if they're the same. That's still a pretty good use of MD5. and you're not worried about someone changing something on the transfer. You're not worried about somebody somehow finding this executable and changing things in the executable. So for certain things, MD5 still works very well. But for things where you have to really verify, don't use MD5. You're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So think about the birthday attacks. You need to understand a birthday attack, why this is like that. So make sure you have this here. Let's do another question. Got another one here for you. Oh, by the way, if you are watching this video for continuing education credit, you already have your Security Plus, you already have your Network Plus, you already have your A Plus, and you would really like to be able to get 1 hour of webinar continuing education credit, then you're going to want to go to the top or the bottom of my website where it says Contact Us. Click that link. There's a nifty little form there. Put in your name, put in your email address. This is what I'm going to use on your certificate. Make sure they're good. Make sure they're right. And put somewhere in the message that I will read. I read all of these, so you can put anything there. But somewhere in that message, put the words birthday attack. That way I know you watch this. So the birthday attack is the one that I'm going to be looking for. So you have to follow that process. If you don't follow that process, you don't get the certificate. I will digitally sign an email back to you that certifies you must have watched this. And then you can use that 1 hour of continuing education for whatever you'd like. It might be for CompTIA or it might be for anything else, but it's something there, the special code word birthday attack. Let's do another question. Here we go. I say here we go. I have to actually go there. Which of the following would be the most effective way to prevent a switch address table DOS? Which of these would be, which of the following would be the most effective way to prevent a switch address table DOS? This is a multiple choice. Would it be enable spanning tree protocol, STP? Would it be to configure 802.1x? Would it be to enable reverse path forwarding, or RPF? Would it be to define an ACL? Or would it be to enable flood guards? One of these would be the most effective way to prevent a switch address table DOS. So some of you are asking, how long before I respond with the CEU? I'm up to date to last week right now. So I'm 7 days out. If you did not get a response and you sent this in more than 7 days ago, then it did not get to me or it was not valid. Or it may be in your spam. Look in your spam folder because I sent out a bunch last month. So it might be there. Or it might be me asking you for more information. Some of you will send information in, just you'll forget to put the code word. So I send you a note back going, do you remember the code word? That one, I have it there. Some of you send in 10 at a time because you can get 10 CEUs for webinars for Security Plus. That's awesome. It saves me a lot of time. So I'd rather get 1 message with 10 of them than 10 messages with 1 of them because I don't have to bundle them together. But either way it works. It's not that big of a deal. So the keyword again was birthday attack. Yes. So thanks for putting in the chat room so that everybody can mention that. That is correct. You'll find it. Some of you watching will absolutely have that there. Have all of those pieces available for those pieces. Yeah, if it was last week, I'm 7 days out right now. So it's probably sitting there waiting for me. I probably have not gotten to it yet for all of these. Let's take a peek at how we did with this one. We're all over the place. Which of these would be the most effective way to prevent a switch address table denial of service? That's what that DOS is for. 36% said to enable flood guards. 26%, 25 now, enable spanning tree protocol. And then kind of a tie for third with configuring 802.1x, enabling reverse path forwarding, and defining an ACL. So what would it be? Well, the answer for this one would be to define a flood guard. This is what the bad guys will do to try to cripple a switch. As you may or may not be aware, is that these switches are able to make forwarding decisions based on the destination MAC address of traffic as it's coming inbound. Switch will look at traffic, goes, where's this traffic going? Well, if I look at this frame, this destination MAC, here it is. I wonder if I know where this destination MAC is. I'm keeping a list of all of the traffic coming through my server or through my switch. So let's look through this entire enormous list of MAC addresses and see if I recognize, well, there it is in the list. It's interface number 4. I'll send this out interface number 4. Let's look at the next one coming through. Here's another one. I'll look through my list. That one's on interface number 6. I'll send that frame out interface number 6. So it keeps this enormous list. In some cases, thousands and thousands of MAC addresses that are associated with a switch interface. Well, there is a limit to this address table. There is a maximum size of this address table. So one of the things that you're able to do is fill up the table and effectively make the switch useless. And what the bad guy will do is just keep sending information in to fill up the table. Some switches act differently when that happens. When it fills up the table, it now just starts sending all traffic to every interface. Very similar to what a hub used to do. Some switches stop forwarding traffic completely. This is one of the challenges with this. There's a lot of ways to configure and help this. In fact, in the chat room, somebody's saying, hey, but can't you configure how many MACs are learned off an interface? Yes, you can. It's called a flood guard. The switch will look at how many unique MAC addresses are coming from an individual interface. If you exceed that number for the interface for that port, then you can decide what to do. You can disable the interface. You can turn it off for a certain bit of time. It depends on the manufacturer's switch and what's allowed, but that is effectively a flood guard. And different manufacturers call this different things. So one manufacturer might call it a flood guard. The other one might call it a spoof prevention. Another one might call this secure interface. It just depends on the manufacturer of the switch. So all of these and those pieces. So that is what you're looking for is the flood guard. And we did get 37% of you that did answer enable flood guards. So well done with that one. 25% spanning tree protocol will prevent your network from looping, which on a switch network is pretty important. You don't want to loop because it will bring the network down pretty much instantaneously. So spanning tree protocol is the one you want to watch out for to keep the loops there, but it really doesn't help preventing a switch table denial of service. And our tie for third, 802.1x will prevent people from logging in and using the network, but it still has to know where these MAC addresses are. Even with 802.1x there, that doesn't help. Reverse path forwarding, that doesn't help us either in this particular case. It's making sure that if traffic is coming inbound one interface, that's going outbound another interface. That's generally done on routers, not on switches. And then you've got ACL, 14% of you. Yes, as I mentioned, different manufacturers do call this different names. Cisco has port security as the name of the interface, the command line interface that's there, but that's a flood guard. That's what that is. You've now done flood guarding on Cisco devices. Well done. That's and you'll use this often on every switch you configure. Cisco, HP, whatever it happens to be. They're very useful to have that there. So maybe that's something you did. So by the way, if you did answer E, enable flood guards, the 38% of you got that one absolutely right. I think we've got time for another question or two. Here's another one for you. What does EAL4 most commonly describe? What does EAL4 most commonly describe? Does it describe A, a hashing algorithm? Does it describe B, a trusted operating system? Does it describe C, a hardware-based key storage? Does it describe D, a secure BIOS extension? Or does it describe E, an EMI leakage rating? And EAL4. So at least some of you in the chat room are going, what in the world are you talking about? Well, here's your chance to take a guess, because this is real life exams. You're sitting there and they've now asked you something that you have no idea what they're talking about. So now's the chance to, in my particular case, it's 1 out of 5. You got a chance to just pick one. Then make sure, by the way, on your exam, if you get down to the end, before you submit it, make sure you answer all the questions. You are never penalized for getting a question wrong. They won't take points away from you for getting a question wrong. You can only get points for getting a question right. That's how we believe this to be. So maybe that's what you think in here too, working through all of these. So this might be a good one to think about your strategy for the exam. Is anything that's not answered, go through and at least push a button on everything. Have it at least filled in. So when you submit that, you have a chance. And usually on the exam, there's 4 answers. So there might be at least a chance with these to be able to get it right. 25%, right? That's pretty good. So at least give it a shot. Never, never, never leave an answer blank on the CompTIA exams. Every exam works a little different. Check the exam you're taking, but for CompTIA exams today, November 2017, make sure you go through those and do that. Let's find out the answer here. What does EAL4 most commonly describe? We're a little torn. 31% said hardware key-based storage. 24% said a trusted operating system. Kind of a tie for third between hashing algorithm and EMI leakage rating. And only 7%, single digits, said secure BIOS extension. So what does EAL4 stand for? That is the evaluation assurance level. And it is, may hear this referred to often as common criteria. So for those of you in the U.S. federal government, you probably did get this one right because you've run into this acronym a lot. If you're not in the federal government, you've probably never heard of this. Maybe state and local government too, you would run into this. But if you're not in a government position, then you're not going to run into EAL4 unless it's this weird place you're working in and they just love. Maybe you're working for someone who is a provider to the federal government. Yeah, you could probably hear about it there too, because you're held to similar security restrictions and requirements for those. The EALs is the evaluation assurance level. And there's different levels between 1 and 7. And it assures that a system is a certain level of security. A trusted operating system, for example, is an EAL4 most commonly. That's the operating system has been set up in a mode that is secure enough that we can give it the moniker of an EAL4. Oh, you're running an EAL4 laptop? I am. I've got an EAL4 server and an EAL4 laptop I'm using. And that's trust information. That's your trusted operating system. So the 23% of you that said B, trusted operating system, would be absolutely correct. Now, for those of you that picked A, hashing algorithm, I'm almost there with you. EAL4 sounds just like a hashing algorithm. That looks like a hashing algorithm. How can that not be a hashing algorithm? It isn't. It's not even close to being a hashing algorithm. It is a trusted operating system. It is indeed the evaluation assurance level. Gosh darn it. How's that possible? It is not an HSA, so it would not be hardware-based key storage. Kind of a similar EAL4 HSA. Well, not really similar, is it? But it's another one of those acronyms you have to know. And it would not be a hardware-based key storage. It would not be a secure BIOS extension. Well, what is that? Did I just make that up? Is that a thing? I think I made that one up. That might not, and I made up E, an EMI leakage rating. That doesn't sound good. There is not an EMI leakage rating. I'm not sure if there is an EMI leakage rating. There must be, right? There's got to be an EMI leakage rating rated on there somewhere. So maybe that's the case. So that's one of those whenever we're trying to figure out those details. That is the type of thing we run into. There is, by the way, all of these questions, for those of you wondering, where does that come from? What are you talking about, a birthday attack? What do you mean EAL4? What are all those things? They come directly from the Security Plus exam objectives. If you have not downloaded and read through the Security Plus exam objectives, you should do that right after the study group, or pop open another browser right now and go to the Google machine, type in CompTIA exam objectives, or I've got a link for you, professormesser.com/objectives, and download the objectives. I knew somebody would find out there was a maximum permissible exposure for EMI leakage. Thank you, an MPE. It's not on your exam, though. Not part of Security Plus, thankfully. Everything you need to know, though, is in here. People ask me, what are the topics? What are the things I really know? What I really need to know? It's in here. There's pages of it. But it is absolutely things you need to know. So that's one of those where, yeah, you do need to work through that. Maybe that's where I got the EMI leakage from in my brain, is from the studying for my general back in the day. The network security, the Security Plus CompTIA does an amazing job of laying this out. So make sure that you go through this list and figure out all of these details. It is everything you need to know. In fact, you even hear all these different protocols. Can't really see them that well because of my head. List out all the protocols. This is for the 401, but the 501 is just as detailed. You don't get this level of detail with other manufacturer certifications, so enjoy this while you got it. You're never going to see anything like this from Microsoft or Cisco. Not even close, not even remotely close. In fact, I'm really wondering if Microsoft doesn't intentionally obfuscate all of their exam objectives, because I sometimes will read them and I can't understand what they're talking about. So make sure you download these and use them. It's a gift. It really is. It's a great checklist. Go through this list before you take your exam. You'll know exactly the things you're strong on and exactly the things you're weak on. And all of my videos follow the exam objectives. Section 1.1 of the exam objectives is directly associated with section 1.1 of my videos. So you can follow along and find things very easily. We do one of these study groups every month. Can you believe it? Me either, but there it is. So we have another one of these planned right after the holidays, December the 27th. We're kind of skipping a week next month. I have an A+ study group on December the 6th. I have a Network Plus study group on the 13th. And you would think there would be one the next week on the 20th, but it's the holidays and I'm doing things and I had a schedule conflict. So we skipped a week. On the 27th is the December 2017 Security Plus study group, December 27th. I'll be another year older, 2 days after my birthday. So this will be one where we get to enjoy the aged and barely operational Professor Messer. So that'd be something we can do on December the 27th. We'd love to have you back here. If this is after the 27th, you can always go to professormesser.com/calendar and find out exactly when the next live event is going to be. Something there. Well, we all talked this week or this study group about my Security Plus course notes. Thank you for your support. Some of you in the chat room have bought it already. You've already looked through it. Thank you. I appreciate your support. We wouldn't be able to have these study groups without you, and that's absolutely the truth. There is YouTube. All of the newest Security Plus videos are being rolled out right now. I'm putting chunks of them out every week. If you want to be in and know exactly the moment those are available, you need to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the little subscription bell so that you're notified immediately when I upload these. You go to professormesser.com/YouTube and do that right there. Be very easy to do. And of course, if you'd like to follow what's going on, professormesser.com/Twitter, professormesser.com/Facebook, professormesser.com/LinkedIn. Just put professormesser.com/a-thing at the end and you will find me. Don't forget about the voucher discounts, professormesser.com/vouchers. And my good friends, we didn't talk about them much. My friends at GTS Learning have some great labs. A lot of you ask about the labs and they're fantastic. You should check those out. They also have 501 labs available. I'll put links on my website this week so you can find those at professormesser.com/sec-labs. Very, very useful to have that there. And thanks to all of you. Stick around for the next hour. We've got phone lines that will open up. We've got plenty to talk about. There's questions in the chat room already. But thanks for joining us on this hour. We will see you next time on the Security Plus Study Group. Well, welcome to the after show, everyone. It's sort of the same show, isn't it? But it's not really. We're not doing any more Q&A. So we've got at least this going on. For those of you wanting to send me messages directly, at the top or the bottom of my website, it says contact us. It's really contact me. It goes to my phone. I see all the messages come through directly. In fact, I have 60 messages waiting for me now because I announced the study group word of the month, and I get 100 messages from you. So instantly. So now I have to sit in front of the television at night and just keep digitally signing with PGP all of these messages back to you. What is the best way to listen to Professor Messer podcasts? Well, of course, if you don't have a podcast listening program now, then you can get one. If you have a mobile device, there's usually a podcast app on the mobile device. There's lots of free ones. There's lots of ones you can buy. There are podcast apps that you can get for your desktop. And the way those work is that you sign up, you subscribe to these podcasts, and as soon as there's a new podcast, the podcast app recognizes that and updates it downloads it automatically so that you can listen to it. That's one wherever you start working through you're traveling, you just pop open your podcast app and all the latest, freshest material is there. There's quite a few. On my iPhone, there's a great podcast app built in. Same thing for Android. And you just go to professormesser.com/podcasts, and you can click the subscribe button right there. Now, sometimes the app you're using will want to know where to go, and there's a link there you can go to as well. Just plug that in and have all of those pieces. The CEU, well, I will send you this email that certifies that you must have listened to this event. And what you do with it's up to you. CompTIA has a whole process you go through where you sign in and you upload things. They probably want a PDF or something like that. I don't know because I don't send them CEUs. And of course, other people will have CEUs available as well. Let's get the phone lines open, though. Here I am talking. And I should have been hosting a show. Let's host a show. Let's start a show. Let's call into a show. Let's see if I can call into the show. I'm going to put up the phone lines because you could call in right now. That's not even what happened there. I've got a funny thing going on there, don't I? Let's call into the show myself to this. Can I call it? Thank you, Skype, for completely changing the interface and messing me up.
We're calling.
Well, you're welcome. Let's type in a few things and see if I can get the show going.
Enter your 6-digit PIN number.
Well, I think we know the redundancy there, but it's okay.
Welcome, host.
Welcome. I'm the host. You're absolutely right. I'm the host. Thank you for recognizing that, lady that's on the thing. With those things, let's, if you would like to call in, some of you already are calling in. You can call in for toll-free in the continental United States at 855-785-RJ45. If you are on Skype, anywhere in the world, you can call for free with no Skype minutes required. You put a +1 at the beginning of that, 855-785-7545. For those, we talked about crack last month, so we're not really, I guess we could talk about it still. It sort of went away. Everybody says, yeah, we need to update things. So some of you are asking, do I have plans to publish a course for CSA Plus? Traditionally, I've not. But now that the federal government has added CSA Plus to their minimum certification requirements, this is one of those things I told you when it came out like 2 years ago, like I'm going to watch it. And if it gets more popular, I'll think about it. Well, it's getting a little more popular. I'm not sure I'm thinking about it yet, but I've got the holidays. We're doing a whole, what are we doing with the rest of our life meeting in January. And I'll keep thinking about, should we do CSA Plus? Because there's a lot happening in 2018 and I want to cram it full every minute of every day. I want to make content. So that's the goal with these pieces. Okay, plenty of people are calling in and you're waiting for me to be quiet so you can talk. So let's do that. Let's go to the 303 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hey, Professor Messer, this is Tim.
Hey, Tim. Thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I just had a question about the GTS Learning Live Labs. Now, it's kind of an A-plus question. If I buy the book and the subscription to the Live Labs, will that be good for Network Plus and Security Plus, or is it like a separate program?
Well, I'm not a GTS learning person. I have nothing to do with their organization other than I love them and they're awesome people and I like their products. And I work with them often. I use their books to make my videos, and then they take my videos when I make them and they embed them in their books. So it's kind of a cool thing we got going on there, and they are great people. I'm not just saying that. I work with them and talk with them all the time, and they are great people to work with. I'm one of those folks that I like to work with people that when things are going well, that's great. But what do you do when there's a problem? And they are just so responsive to fix things that those are the kind of people I like to work with. As I understand it, though, when you buy one of their live labs, it's just for that course. So if you get their A-plus live labs, it's just for A-plus. You would have to buy the Network Plus and the Security Plus separately, as far as I understand it. But whenever GTS Learning comes up, I highly recommend you contact them directly. There's a contact them link on the GTS Learning website, and they can answer questions for you. You can ask them about bundles if they have them. I don't know what they do with all of that. That's their party, and I try to stay out of their business, but they're really responsive. So if there's some things, questions beyond that, they're more than happy to help you.
Excellent. Cool. Other question. So besides like your pop quiz questions and the GTS Learning Labs, I know you recommend those. Like, what other study materials would you recommend for A+ and Network Plus?
For any course like those, I have kind of a four-pronged approach. One is get a good book. The GTS Learning books are great, but find a book that works for you. Different books work for different people, and I get that, and that's great. Maybe watch some videos, watch my videos, watch somebody else's videos. It's videos that are covering the same content, but whenever you watch a video, you're learning in a different way than if you read it. So a video works for certain parts of your brain, a book works for other parts of your brain, and we're trying to fill in all of those gaps. The third thing I like to also recommend is the Q&A. And you mentioned that. Have something, once you've gone through a book and a video, how much of that did I absorb, and can I get into the mode of answering these questions in a way that will be asked of me? And not all questions are really equal. So I've seen some books and I've seen some questions online that are just real dogs. They're not very good, high quality questions, which is why I wrote mine, because I thought there needs to be some really thought put into these questions. It's an art form to be able to really build a question. I'm never 100% with them, but I like to spend a lot of time making sure they're questions that make you think about what the answer is finally going to be. And lastly, hands-on. Get as much hands-on as you can. I think of that as muscle memory. As I'm fixing the boot sector of a system and typing in those commands, I'm getting it. It's now registering. There's a synapse that's firing in my brain that puts all of those things together. If I can take something that's broken and fix it, that helps me learn better than me just putting it together and all working at the very beginning. So those are the types of four different things that I try to mix and match whenever I'm thinking about getting a certification myself.
Awesome. Hey, thank you very much, Professor.
Thanks for calling, Tim. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
There's plenty of options out there for all four of those different things: the book, the videos, the Q&A, and the hands-on. Plenty of options from plenty of places. Find the one that works for you. There's some on my website. They help support the site, but find what works for you. I really don't care as long as you pass the exam. That is ultimately the goal. Let's go to 573 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hey, this is Tyler.
Hey, Tyler. What can we do for you?
Hey, so I actually have a couple of questions. So my first question is, my fiance recently got into the IT industry. Now, she's never worked an IT job before. She has two separate IT or degrees, associate's degrees in IT, but has no experience with certifications. And she doesn't necessarily have a lot of experience. All she really has is that piece of paper that says, this is a degree and this is what it's in.
Yep.
I thought it would be a good idea for me to try and teach her about these things, because I'm A+ certified and Socrative Plus certified. And I've recently figured out that I'm not a very good teacher. So I'm just kind of curious, what would you recommend that she do? Would you recommend that she watches your videos? Because basically all my learning was done from your YouTube videos and books. I really don't know what to tell her,
Right.
So I was hoping you could give me some insight.
There's a number of options available, and I get it. There's one of the challenges I have is some of my kids are in taking IT classes right now. The last thing they really want to do is come ask me about questions they're having about systems engineering. My daughter knows I was a systems engineer for the bulk of my career. Well, now she's in a systems engineering class, and she's got to ask Dad about questions about how they're going to do this thing, which actually goes much better than I'm really making it out to be. But there's always that, now I have to deal with you, and you ultimately you would like her eventually to marry you. So you don't want to spoil it now. So that's also a concern. You have to think about those things. And some people like learning from people that are not related or know each other. It's just easier that way. Maybe videos work for them. A lot of people send me emails and said, I tried your videos, can't do it. And I get it. That's fine. Find the ones that work for you. Every video training class that I've ever seen for A+ has been very different than another one. So find the one that makes sense for you. I like, really, ironically, when I'm studying for a certification exam, I don't do a lot of that now, but when I did, I really like books more than video. I don't know if that's because I make a lot of videos and I just don't want to watch a lot of videos, or if a book is the better way for me to learn, but everybody has a different way that they like to learn. That may be the way to do it. But you are right, though. You know, one of the challenges with IT is that there's not a lot of great formal training out there. I say training like long-term degree-based training for IT. A lot of the IT training that's out there is very focused on programming. Well, IT is really no programming. Computer science is a lot of programming. IT is maybe some scripting. There's not real programming. Don't call scripting programming because it isn't. And we can have a whole fight over that one. People will send me emails, and I look forward to your emails on how scripting is not programming, but it isn't. So why do we go through 4 years of a formal education teaching you C++ when all you're going to do is get out of that and now have to put together an Active Directory infrastructure? What the C++ isn't helping you at all. So but you got to have the programming side on computer science, so you have something to run on the servers that have the Active Directory. So there's a really nice match there. And as someone who has done programming in my past, I'm not. I like the programming side of things, but information technology is not programming. So now you have to kind of blend those together. But she's got a job in IT currently. You can always leverage that for your next position. Once you get past your first or second, you're going to put your degree at the top of your resume, but people are really going to flip past that and say, we're looking for someone who has had some experience for this particular position. Let's flip past that. Okay, you got a degree, great. Tell me about your last job. Tell me what you did. Tell me about the problems you ran into. Tell me how you solved the problems. Tell me about who you worked with. Tell me about what your lab looks like at home. Those are the things the employer's going to know most. I've worked with people who were incredibly successful in the technology industry who had no college degree, and they were millionaires working in IT. It's absolutely possible. Did they have to work hard to get there? Absolutely, they had to work hard to get there. It was a challenge. In fact, they said there were times when they wanted to get into maybe a management position where they felt it was a disadvantage not to have one, but they were able to find the path for them that worked. So that's really the difference there, is you have to find out what works for you. And ultimately, she may not need certifications. It depends on what she wants to do next. So find out what is the next step, and then find out what those jobs are, and then find out what people are asking for. They might be asking for a Microsoft certification. They might be asking for CompTIA certification, or they might be asking for some practical experience in doing a certain thing. And every employer is a little bit different, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's basically what I've told her, is that, she hasn't started her job yet. She's been working at this credit union for maybe 6 months, and she applied for it's called a system analyst position, but it's really just help desk. Mm-hmm. So she told me that her scope of work looks like, she'll be fixing basically computers and helping people with their issues. So password resets, going into AD, and configuring whatever she needs to do there.
Great.
So what I told her is that she should probably do A+ first, mm-hmm. and then just sit on that for a while until she feels more comfortable to branch out. Like, she hasn't started yet. I don't know if she's going to like it. She doesn't know if she's going to like it. It's a big jump,
It is, and I think a lot of us in the industry started on a help desk. I started on a help desk at an insurance company. Mm-hmm. So we all kind of started there because it's a great place. First, you're going to learn a lot, which is a lot of fun. But more importantly, you get to figure out where you're going to go next. At the help desk, you're getting a little bit of desktop, you're getting a little bit of server, you're getting a little bit, if she's in a bank, you're getting a little bit of mainframe, you're getting a little bit of wide area network, you're getting a little bit of security. And then you can figure out which one of these do I like the most. I like the networking part the most. Let me go down that direction. Oh, I like the security part the most. Let me go talk to those folks. So it's a great place to branch out and make connections. And in our industry, the more connections you make, the better you're going to be. If you don't have a LinkedIn page, you better get one. If you haven't met these people and gone to the user group meetings, you better do that, because that's where through the years, we're a very small community, relatively speaking. You're going to see these people over and over and over again. Everybody knows everybody else, and it helps if you have those in place.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sorry, I have one more question.
Sure.
What kind of microphone do you use?
I love my microphone. This is a Heil PR40. And this is, it's not an incredibly expensive microphone. It is, it's not like the $500 microphones that you would see in a radio station, but I think it has the same quality as one. It's about a $350 microphone, so it's not inexpensive. But boy, what a workhorse. I've had it forever. And it's a fantastically sounding microphone. It's also going through a little bit of audio processing, not a lot when it finally gets to you, but it's hopped up just a little bit. And but that's easy to do through these things. But basically, what's going into the mic is what you're hearing, and I think it's a great mic.
Great. Yeah, it definitely sounds great. It sounds a lot better than my AT 2035. I just wanted to compare it.
Maybe so.
All right,
yep.
Well, yes. Yeah. Thank you very much for the information.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Tyler.
For all your help.
Take care.
The past couple years. Yep.
Absolutely. Bye bye. That's there's no compression on this. I don't do any compression. I don't turn on any compressors for this. So if you're hearing compression, it's not coming from me. I want to say no compression. Did I turn off the compression? It's because it's me just talking. There's no other audio. There's no music. I don't talk really quiet. And then get really loud, so I don't really need a lot of compression on here. I just don't do it. I don't like the way it sounds, so I try not to turn it on. For those, back to the phones. Yes, Bob Heil does make fantastic microphones. You know, he made his name in rock and roll, in concerts, and having microphones and audio technology. And now this is what he does, and he makes amazing. The 302 area code, are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hi, Professor Messer. This is Rich.
Hey, Rich. Thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
Well, I'm a veteran transitioning out of the military. I was in emergency medicine, was a medic.
Wow, excellent.
I just wanted to thank you. I'm headed into my exam today at 3.
Okay. This is your last stab at Security Plus to see how things go.
Your videos have been rolling constantly in the background. The podcast while I'm driving. Just really wanted to say we appreciate the resources you provide.
Outstanding, sir. Fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes with your exam then. I have a live-in nurse in my house. Mrs. Professor Messer is an RN, so I also have great respect for people who understand how the human body works. I'm a technical person at heart, so you're now combining those two things together. Are you thinking of getting your next step in your career is combining those things together? Is IT at a hospital in your future, or security, or is there something else you plan on doing?
I'm actually on subcontract with the VA.
Oh, perfect. See? Combining both of those together. What a perfect combination. That's fantastic. Well, good luck with your exam. Thank you for your service. And please let us know how that goes with your test.
Will do, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rich. It's fantastic. So that's the way you do it. You combine those things together. Although I say that, I started really working, my first big job where I stayed 5 years, very early on, was with a life insurance company. It was in financial services. And I really didn't, I was in IT with financial services. And I think after 5 years, I left that job. And I don't think I still really knew what we did. I didn't know what our products were. I didn't know what are we selling? It was an insurance company. I don't even really think I had a business degree. And I don't think, I understood what insurance was. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't ridiculously ignorant, but being able to understand all of those different financial products at the time was well beyond the scope of what my IT brain trying to figure things out was trying to do. And so I didn't stick in finance. I kind of went off to the vendor side and did systems engineering for protocol analysis, security companies those types of things. But it's interesting that kind of worked out that way, kind of twisted through that way in all of those. For the course notes, by the way, some of you were asking about pricing on the course notes. The 401 course notes, you'll notice to get the printed version, it's an extra $15. I basically make the printed versions available, and I kind of just pass through the price. These are so expensive to print because they're all color. Can't really see with the light. It's so bright in here. But everything in here is colored. So you've got a color, each page is color printed. So it really hikes up the price of everything. The problem is that the 401 course notes are 40 or 60 pages total. What is it total? It's 40 pages for the contents. It's about 45, 46 pages with the table of contents and the introduction. So it's an extra $15. The 501 course notes is an extra $20 because it's 100 and something pages long. So it costs more to print. It costs $5 more to print. So I apologize that it's an extra $20 to get a printed version, but it's a big, thick book. It's really a hefty little book with all the stuff in here. So it's one of those where I hate that it's extra $20, but I just cram so much in here that if it's something you want printed, that's just what it is. I just decided to pass it through because some people like print it, and I get it. And I didn't want to penalize any more for printed, but I wanted to give you a book that actually looked nice too. Back to the phones. 571 area code. You're on the air. What's your name? Hi, caller.
My name is Jerry. How are you doing?
Hey, Jerry. Thanks for calling. I'm good. How are you, sir?
Fine. I have a question about somebody who called you a minute ago that he's a medic, but he's venturing into IT.
Sure.
My question is, I'm also I talked to you some time ago. I'm a student trying to get my certification, and currently I work as a PO, law enforcement officer.
Uh-huh.
And I'm wondering if I get a certification without any hands-on training, or is it possible for me to get a job?
Is it possible? Yes. So the question, and this
if I don't have experience,
right? And it's a very common question, though. It's one of that catch-22 where you don't have experience, so you can't get a job, but you can't get a job to get the experience because you don't have that experience already. It's one of those challenges. Mm-hmm. It's a very common problem, though, and it's a very common question that I get with these when someone's trying to get a job. What you want to do is when you walk into any position, be in the best possible opportunity to get that job. And usually I'd say this is really three things you should have on your resume. One is a formal education of some kind. It doesn't even necessarily have to be an IT degree. My degree that I got was in business, so it wasn't an IT degree at all, but I was really interested in IT, and that's the direction I started with when I got out of college. So having some type of formal education always helps. The second one I always mention is to have some kind of experience. That experience can be of you. It doesn't necessarily have to be a paid job. It could be IT work that you've done as a volunteer. It could be things that you've done, even experiences you've set up in your own home lab. Me explaining to people my home lab configuration, we've often spent 30 minutes on an interview just talking about what I've got set up and the things that I've done. In fact, you've seen some of it. If you've watched some of my latest Security Plus videos, I'll show you myself doing a disassociation attack because I set up a Kali Linux machine. I set up my wireless stuff. I plugged them all together, and I ran a disassociation attack. You click one button, and you can take everybody off the wireless network. Boom. And you explain that to someone, how you set it up and what you did, and they're like, okay, you have some idea of how all these things work. So a lot of the times the experience that you have with your own hands-on can be a very valuable tool to bring to an interview, even if you don't have a lot of practical experience where somebody paid you for a job. So don't discount your home lab. That can be very powerful. And thirdly is certifications. That's the third leg of the stool, is How can I show somebody that I've gone through the process of learning enough of this content for someone else to say, yes, you know it well enough to earn that certification? Some manufacturers or some employers really care about certifications. Some employers don't care at all about certifications. So it just depends on who you're going to talk to and what their current philosophy is. None of those three things are required or guarantee you a job. So nothing is a golden key that gets you in anywhere, which is why I tell people also do other things. Go to the user group meetings. Find a Microsoft user group meeting in your area and go to that meeting and meet people. You know, you're going there, of course, to learn what they're doing at the meeting, but go meet people. Ask them about who they're hiring lately. Ask them about what you're doing and what should you be working on to get hired by your company. Those are answers that people are more than happy to give you at these user group meetings because they're in a similar role. They're trying to find the next job for them too. And these user group meetings are a great place to go. I think in my history of IT jobs, I hopped around to 12 or 14 jobs as the years went by, sometimes coming back to places I'd worked before. And every time, except the first job, every job I went to, I already knew somebody who worked there. And I think that helped. I think knowing somebody who's already at that organization, even if you aren't interviewing with them, you can say, yeah, I know Fred, he works in IT. We went to the user group meeting together. We did some Microsoft stuff. It was really great. They know there's a connection there, and it really does help in an interview. So don't worry so much that you don't have practical experience. Sometimes it's a deal breaker. Sometimes it isn't. You just have to keep going on these interviews and talking to people and being very positive and telling them, I'm the guy for this job. If you ask me right now if I would take the job, I'd tell you, absolutely, I like what you're telling me. I like what your organization is doing. I like what you've told me about the position. This sounds like a great thing. I can't wait to hear from you. Now, that's the attitude you should have going in. I would much rather hire somebody who wanted to work here than somebody who was begging me to hire them. It's a very different perspective. But when you're trying to get that first job, it's an important one too.
All right. Thank you very much for explanation and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Jerry. Good luck.
Bye.
That's one there's never a single good right answer for that. There's never one thing I can tell anybody that says, oh, if you want to get hired, here's the only thing you need to do and they will hire you, because it's never works that way. The book I was showing for those in the chat room, you want the printed version. This is my book. This is my course notes. This is not the GTS Learning book. They sell I don't sell the GTS Learning book. I didn't author the GTS Learning book. I don't publish the GTS Learning book. I like the GTS Learning book. I use the GTS Learning book myself to put content in some of these videos. And they put my videos in their book. But it's not the Fast Track Study Guide, which is the GTS Learning book. This is my course notes book. Course notes. Right there. For those. It's a great book. It's a big book. I like this latest version. I was looking through this and thinking, there's a lot of stuff in 501. If you were thinking about taking the 501, I'd really consider you take the 401 while you can, because the 501 is a big exam. They added a bunch of stuff. They changed around a bunch of stuff. I had to, the difference. Each one of these contains everything from my videos. This one's 40 pages. This one's 94 pages. That just tells you the difference. And I really put in everything, every bit of text, every graphic, everything I have in there. So it's a bigger exam. It took me a long time to put that together, literally months. It's still putting it together. I'm still producing it. So I'm not going to be done for another couple of months. We're going to be through December and I'll be finishing it up. So there's quite a bit more to do. That's what I'm doing now is every day I sit in here and I just stare at this camera and I talk to it. Hi, camera. Let's talk about security. And we keep doing these videos. Yesterday, I shot only 2 videos, but each one was almost an hour long shooting just for the video. When I edit, they edit down to about 40 to 50% of the length. So they really will edit down till about 20 to 25 minutes. So some of these videos are much longer than the others. You will find that the 501 videos, and I think this is really thanks to the folks who put together the new objectives, the objectives really gel together much better than the 401. 401 is a lot of 3-minute videos, very disjointed. They don't link together very well. But the 501 videos all link together quite nicely for the most part. So I'm having to create videos. It doesn't make sense to make them 3 minutes long. I really need to put all of these together so you can get context all the way across. These are the things I think about at night in bed as I'm staring at the ceiling. What am I going to do with this course? A lot of this. I do all the editing. Everything's done here. So nothing is outsourced. I'd love to actually outsource the editing, but you've got to realize I shoot a video and I've got 100 gig of video once I'm done with that hour because everything is shot in HD and it's not really compressed that much. So I've got these 100 gig of video. How could I get that 100 gig of video out to somebody else to edit? I'd have to find somebody local because I really don't want to have to put everything on a drive and then ship it out. And then how long is that going to take? So I usually will shoot and I'll collect 10 to 20 videos in the can on my SSD. It's in the can, but I'll collect 20 or so of them. And then I'll just spend days editing those out. And I can usually get through on a banner day. I've gotten through 8 videos editing. So it takes a good bit of time. I come in the morning, I edit. Now, there's other things going on around me. I'm processing orders and answering questions and that type of thing, but it's basically heads down editing. So it takes quite a bit of time to get those done. So I'll spend a couple of days going through those 20 videos. I'll get down to the last few and then I'll jump back in and I'll shoot more. I try to shoot as much as I can to have live video here, but I balance that with, can I get the videos out? I want to get new content to you all the time. So I'm constantly balancing out the edit time and posting with shooting new content. I want to shoot new content because what if I get a sore throat? I can't do it. Hey, welcome to the courses. Nobody wants to listen to that. So I need to shoot while I can. I don't want to have a cold. I don't want to have to, there's something happens, life happens and you're pulled away. So I want to shoot when I can, get it in the can, and then I can be much more flexible in the editing process because you can start and stop editing. But the shooting process, I have to come in, I have to set up everything. I get the studio. Normally this monitor is back up closer to me. I have to push the monitor back, turn the cameras on, pull the shades, make sure the right color shirt is on. I say that. People say, why do you keep using the same shirt? And I tell them, no, it's a different shirt for every video. The shirt budget is crazy. It's not really what happens. There is, but it's a setup process. And then I'll sit in here for hours just talking to the camera. And then once I'm done, I kind of break it all down. And then I, put a t-shirt back on and casual, and then open up the shade so I can see the world again. And then I can edit what I've got there. But your voice is only good for a couple of hours. Because even right now, we are an hour and 37 minutes in. And, I'm not going to be able to shoot video today. I will edit today if I have time. To the phones. You've been holding so nicely. The 240 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name? Caller. Are you there? Am I muted? Caller 240. There's a beep you hear.
Oh, yeah. Welcome.
There you are. Hi. Yeah, what's your name?
I'm Cyril. How you doing?
Hey, what can we do for you?
Yeah, I had a quick question. I wasn't there at the beginning. I just wanted to know, when is the 401 getting expired?
Oh, you're going to have to slow that down a little bit, brother. What's your question again?
Oh, sorry. So I was trying to know, when is the 401 get expired?
It's so difficult to hear. It's very muffled. Do you have maybe a sock over the phone? Is there a pillow that you need to move off the front of the phone?
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, give me a sec.
That's one of those.
So yeah, can you hear me better?
Oh, it's a little bit better. It's a little more crisp. What can we do for you?
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't there at the beginning. I just wanted to know, when is the 401 version getting expired?
Oh, yes. And it's worthwhile bringing this up again because it's one that keeps coming back and forth. I answer this question a lot lately, and it's because there's this overlap period. So many of us know the 501 was introduced last month, but a lot of people don't realize, It's interesting you bring this up, that the 401 is still available. And they really don't realize it's available until the end of July. So they really created this 9-month ramp. And it makes sense. If you've been studying for 6 months for the 401, what if you woke up one morning and the 401 was just gone and there was a 501 in its place? Nobody would like that. That would be a bad scene. So that's what CompTIA does, is they say, no, we'll give you a ramp. We'll introduce the new version, and then you can decide which one you would like to take. And if you've been studying for the 401, you've got until July, the end of July 2018 to take that and pass that 401 exam. And thankfully, it's just one exam.
Okay, I got it. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, sir. Thanks for calling. It's a great thing too. And as I mentioned, there's a lot more materials available right now for the 401 exam than there is the 501. So even now, if I was taking it fresh, if I was suddenly starting right now in November of 2017 and thinking, which one should I take? I would still probably take the 401. But there's going to be a time after the beginning of the year where I'm going to look around and say, well, there's a lot of books out now and the video courses are done. Now I get to decide which one I want. Am I going to be able to study everything before the end of July? So at that point, it's a race. And if it's a race, I don't want to be in it. I need plenty of time. So at that point, people will probably transition over to 501. But I will tell you, there will be people coming to me and getting course notes the day before the exam is retired. The 401 is a viable course, and you can still get a certification on that 401 on the last day of July. And people will take their exam on the last day of July because we're humans, and that's the way we do things. Well, that's when we turn our tax form in is on the last day. We roll up to the parking lot of the post office so they can stamp it in the parking lot and put it in there. And that's how we do our taxes. Well, it's the same thing with our Security Plus exams. It's the last day. And that's one of those weird things I found. Now, a lot of people will have transitioned over at that time. There's still a few of us, still a couple of folks that have that in there. The 501 exam, for those wondering, is about 50% different than the 401. I've seen some estimations at 25%, not even close. Half the content's brand new. Half of it. So you can't mix and match these things. Pick one and go with it, is my recommendation. Is it best to take your A Plus and Network Plus before getting your Security Plus? It's not required. It's not a prerequisite. You don't have to. There are things on the Security Plus exam that have a little bit of overlap from the Network Plus. And the Network Plus has a little bit of overlap from the A Plus, but not exactly required to pass your Network Plus. It will help you a little bit, but not really required. Which exam content? Kim asks, which exam content is more difficult, the 401 or the 501? I would say from a difficulty perspective, they're about the same. All the 501 did was update a lot of the topics. They got rid of a lot of the process stuff and integrated more of the practical application. They went as far as talking about practical application of IT security without actually typing in much of anything in. Although there is a little bit of command line in the 501, but it's almost exactly identical to the command line from Network Plus. That's one of those places where there is a good bit of overlap with that. So I wouldn't say that the difficulty level is any different. To me, they seemed very similar. I spent a little bit more time fleshing out some of the content from the 401. So for instance, you saw the digital signature stuff I did today. That was all new graphics from the 501. The content was in 401, but I didn't really graphically explain it. And a lot of people were saying, I'm struggling with encryption. I'd like to be able to see it. And you know what? There's just not a lot of people that visually show how the process works. So I thought, well, let's build it out. How does it work? What can we combine together? How can we put it on the screen? So that's why I think some of the course notes are a little bit bigger than the 501, is that I made more content, but I don't think it's any harder. I think it's the same difficulty. Now, I haven't seen the new exam. I haven't heard any reports about the new exam. So that's where we'll really find out when people start taking the exam if it's any different. I don't expect it to be. The course notes are the exam objectives from CompTIA didn't look any dramatically different. And I know they have the CSA Plus is the next step up. We've talked a little bit about that today. The Cybersecurity Associate, CSA, I think that's what it is, CSA Plus. where it's going to be more hands-on. You're going to learn about Nmap. You're going to learn about Wireshark. You're going to learn about these tools that I sort of demonstrate in the 501, but we really don't go into detail about how they work. But I wrote a book on Nmap, so I'm very familiar with Nmap. And yes, they're coming out with the Pen Tester Plus. That is just a cash grab right there. That's a pure, I shouldn't say it's a cash grab. There are quite a number of penetration testing jobs available in the world, but not as many as it seems that there's exams for. Penetration testing is a little subset of IT security. In that big Venn diagram of security jobs, there is a little subset of pen testing. Are there pen testing jobs? Yes. Are there a lot of them? Relatively speaking, no. There's a lot more IT security jobs out there available than penetration testing. Penetration testing just sounds cool. We hacked into the network, man. That's cool. So I get the cool part because it is cool. There's just not a lot of jobs for it. So I don't see Pen Tester Plus as being a remarkably important certification, but it will be cool for what that's worth for those pieces. So we'll see. We'll see what comes from that. And they are really, the reason is that there are in the world of security. Pen Tester Plus is an announced exam that's not available yet that they're working on from CompTIA. That's a real thing. And the reason is, and this little bit of inside baseball, at least I'll give you my analysis of the certification market for security, is that security itself as a market is very fragmented. There are people doing IT security that are responsible for firewalls, intrusion prevention systems, VPNs. They're managing certificate authorities and administering them and setting them up. There are people doing server security. You have to do workstation security, antivirus, anti-malware, cloud-based email filtering. List goes on and on and on. Each one of those things, SIMs, reporting, all of that, each one of those is its own world of knowledge you need. If you were a systems engineer, you could work for a company that does next generation firewalls. You could work for a company that does certificate authorities. You could work for a company that does VPNs. You could work for a company that does SIMs. And that's all you would do in your life, is you would know everything about there is with this. IT security folks have know a little bit about all of those, but look at all of those different domains of knowledge you have to know. So a lot of people will get, and by the way, penetration testing's in there. People do their own internal penetration testing, but it goes along with all the other things they're doing, which is auditing passwords and managing the firewall and setting up VPN connectivity and doing VPN site-to-site configurations and deploying new hardware and all of that. So once you learn kind of the base of security, which you kind of get through Security Plus, CSA Plus, and effectively CASP, where you know what the tools are. You've used some of them. You've done some Nmap scans. You've captured some packets. You've put a certificate into Wireshark and you've decoded some SSL. You know, those are the things that are practical use for security. Once you're past that, now you really start fragmenting. Now you become an expert in next generation firewalls, or you become an expert in SIMs, or you become an expert in penetration testing, or you become an expert in whatever that thing happens to be. So there has to be a certification to go along with that. And traditionally in the industry, there have been a handful of companies that have provided certifications like the OSCP, which is very commonly used they have a set of penetration testing certifications that a lot of people like. The CISSP is the gold standard, or has traditionally been the gold standard for an overall security knowledge certification. But CompTIA, up to a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, had Security Plus. That's all they had. Well, the security market has blown up. The security market is huge. The security market is incredibly popular right now. And they're realizing we need more certifications. We need to branch out. And that's what they've done. So you're seeing more branching out. And that's what penetration testing is doing. They are trying to compete with all these other folks out there that are also making those security certifications that are already pretty well entrenched. But it now just becomes very fragmented. Now they get smaller and smaller pie pieces as you go farther out. The leaves, the branches get smaller as it gets farther away from the trunk. And you're going to see that with these exams. So that's what that's all about. To the phones, 951 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hi, yeah, Tony here.
Welcome. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I'm just calling in. Just wanted to know if you can probably break down some advice as far as how to get into. I know you were just talking about penetration testing. How do I break into that field? I've been in the industry for a few years now, mostly help desk, desktop support, but I wanted to see how I even break into that field, because I know it's very delicate, and even just to speak about it when you try to get training for it.
It's one that you can come at from a lot of different directions. And people who are in IT security anyway, on the general security side, people come from a lot of different realms of knowledge. The one that I tell people, though, if you're just starting out and eventually you want to get into security, is I tell you to get the strongest foundation in networking as you can. And that's because everything you're going to do in security will touch the network. If you're working on next generation firewalls, you're going to be heavily involved in layer 3 routing, in site-to-site communication of wide area networks, in dynamic routing, and even ultimately in integrating with switch protocols, especially redundant switch protocols. And there's an extensive set of IP and subnetting and dynamic routing knowledge you have to know to be able to do that. If you're doing VPNs, similar scenario, because you're doing this VPN connection across a wide area network. You're going to have to integrate that with an existing wide area network provider. There's a lot of intricacies with that. If you're doing certificate authorities, that's a little bit different. Not a huge networking component there, but you are setting up CAs and intermediate CAs on someone's network to be able to do those pieces. A SIM is definitely connecting to the network, and how do you set up the most efficient way to get the data, the syslog data from these devices into the SIM, and it just goes on and on and on. There's this huge networking component, especially as we move things to the cloud, a huge networking component associated with these pieces. So I tell people just starting out, get a good, solid foundation in networking. From that point, it's now about what interests you the most. I spent 7 years at a next generation firewall company because I just love the security part of setting up this one device that can do everything. It can do intrusion prevention and URL filtering and application visibility and allow and block traffic and be able to stop the bad guys with antivirus, and it's all in there. There are people that I worked with that came from the desktop side. So they got very familiar on the desktop side and brought that over. There's other people that came from other firewall companies that brought that in. I came from sort of a mixture of protocol analysis and understanding security from an antivirus and workstation side and brought that into the firewall side. It just depends on where you're going at that point. If you're getting into penetration testing, there's a huge networking component. Once you get into the networking side, there's all these next steps where you begin learning the Nmap and understanding how to use the security tools available in your existing firewalls and being able to work with Metasploit and really understanding how the security market works. But the first thing you got to have is the foundation of networking, and that's pretty important. Now, if people in the chat room are saying, what about if you're doing a SIM? Is the networking component that crucial? It's not as crucial as it is with a firewall, clearly, but there's clearly a networking component to getting this off of these other devices and pulling it into a central SIM. Where do you put the SIM? Do you put it in the core of the network? Is it going to have redundant links? Are you going to have multiple interfaces? How much bandwidth are you going to require to bring this data in? How do you increase the bandwidth? Do you make this redundant? And many SIMs are distributed, so you have these devices spread throughout the network. Where are you going to put these in the network, and how are they going to report that data back? So there is a nice foundation of networking to think about there. So I know it's sort of a long answer to what seems like a very simple question, but it's one you kind of have to think about. There's got to be a path. Make sure you lay out the path for you, and it's going to change as you go, but build on as you go, and you'll eventually get there.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks. Absolutely. Thanks for calling. It's a constant challenge to stay up to date with all of these pieces. And any one of those that I mentioned, you could become an expert in and go work for a company that makes that kind of product and be a systems engineer and easily make six figures. That's the way this industry works. That's the challenge, though. You really have to know your stuff to get to that point. And it's just a building path. You build to that point. Suddenly you're there and you're wondering, how did I get here? How did we make it to this? And there you are. And the potential's there. That's one of the things I love about IT. I tell people, you're starting off in the help desk. In 20 years, this is going to be a completely different world. There wasn't really an internet 20 years ago. We were still using pagers. We didn't have, we had some mobile phone technology there. At least we had flip phones, but we didn't have smartphones. There was no Twitter. There was no Facebook. So where do you go with this? The world is going to change dramatically in a very, very short period of time. So just follow what is interesting to you. And it's sort of a combination of things. The industry changes and you find things that you like and you intersect, and that's where you end up going. And then you just follow it. That's what I did. And it's certainly, this industry is one where you really have that flexibility. Really different than almost any other industry out there is if you want to do something, let's just go learn that thing and I'm just going to go do that. You really can't do that on an assembly line. It's hard to do that if you're in education or transportation or any other world, like any other vertical. It's only when in IT that you could take an idea of, why don't I just go do that? And you can go do it. I'd like to do that around the world. I get to go to Japan and Scotland and London and all over the United States and Canada and to the Caribbean. And did I think I would be doing that because I knew how subnetting worked? But that's what it took. That's crazy. There it is. And you can do it too. Just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep learning. Never stop. If you're at a point where you think it's not right for you, you go to another job. You can do that in IT. It's hard to do that in other places, but you can absolutely do that. Just make a decision to do it. We've come to the end of another hour. Can you believe it? This after show went on quite some time. I couldn't do without your calls. Thanks so much for all your calls today. Thanks for joining me for the first hour and bringing that through as well. Thanks for being in the chat room with your questions. It'd be kind of a boring after show if it was just me talking the whole time about this. So it really makes a difference when you're here. And I'm so glad you're able to join us. We've got another one of these planned for next month. Be sure to check in at professormesser.com/calendar. You can find out when the next study group is going to be, when we're going to do an after show. You can always send me a message, though, from my website. There's a contact us link at the top or the bottom of my website. I hope everybody here in the United States has a great Thanksgiving. We'll start the beginning of December with our A+ study group. I hope to see you back here as well. But thanks for joining us this time on the Security Plus study group. Thanks, everyone.